Hello, I'm Claire Jewitt and this is the Diary of an Orange Cat. The diary entries of a thoughtful, slightly neurotic ginger cat named Weasley, written from a small harbour community in New Zealand. Last time, Weasley found himself navigating the rather unpredictable world of online dating, where appearances, as it turns out, can be somewhat misleading. This week, things take a slightly different turn, because it seems that even in Diamond Harbour, big ideas, strong opinions, and a desire to be heard are beginning to take hold. Although, as ever, not everyone is entirely clear on the details. This is C.A.T. Before we begin, I'd just like to make it clear that I am fully supportive of meaningful change. I simply feel that any proposed course of action should be proportionate and ideally reversible. Monday, 29th July 2019. I think Mummy has gone away somewhere. She packed a bag, gave me a large feed, and then disappeared. I don't think she's been feeling very well recently. She's been lying down a lot and hasn't been going to work. I hope she hasn't gone away on holiday, because this means I'll have to stay outside and wait for people to come over and leave food out for me. Thankfully, Mummy has put the new cat bed that she bought me underneath the deck, so at least I've got a comfortable place to sleep. It's times like this I really wish I had a cat door. Wednesday, 31st of July 2019. Mummy still isn't home. We had our mindfulness meeting tonight, and Serafina, whose owner is a good friend of Mummy's, broke the dreadful news to me that she's been admitted to hospital. This is devastating news, and I was glad to have the support of my friends tonight, particularly after what happened last time when she was in hospital for an entire month. Even though I was just a kitten back then, I'd known that it was all my fault. I still can't talk about what happened 3 years ago. I can't even think about it. I think of Whitaker's wise words about putting your past behind you, moving forward and focusing on the positive, but all of this is a lot easier said than done. Wednesday, 14th of August 2019. Mummy got back from hospital a week ago today. I haven't had time to write about it in my diary because there's obviously been a lot of work for me to do. Making sure I was there when she needed to give me a cuddle, accompanying her when she wanted to lie down, deep tissue massages when she had the dressing gown on, making sure I kept my claws trimmed so they weren't too sharp. It's been a hectic time for me, but I must have done my job well because it wasn't long before she was up and about and now she's back at work. Things might be normal for her, but they aren't normal for me. I found myself sleeping more than usual and often feel dizzy, sometimes so much that I lose my balance. But that wasn't the worst of it. My back hurts, one of my rear legs feels weak, and my left paw has gone sort of numb and tingly. The pain and discomfort comes and goes, but it's there for most of the time, and even when it isn't, I feel as though I have a little black cloud hanging over me, reminding me that something isn't quite right. I wondered if I should talk about it to the others at the mindfulness meeting this evening. I knew what would happen, though. Ron would probably laugh and tell me to get some medicinal catnip. Serafina would insist that I immediately search my symptoms and go straight to the vet, and Squeak would assure me that he had these problems all the time and not to worry. I don't know why we call our weekly get-togethers a mindfulness group, to be honest. All we ever do is sit around under the deck at my place talking absolute rubbish and eating stolen food. Tonight's meeting would undoubtedly be no different. Of course, it would be different if Whitaker was still alive, and that bleak thought made me feel even worse. "You okay, Weasley?" remarked Ron, taking a bite from one of the meat pies that Squeak had managed to snag from outside on the spot. "You look a bit tired." Actually, I began, feeling even more drained as the pain in my back crept down to my hip area. I was disappointed that this opportunity to mention my health concerns was interrupted by the arrival of Serafina, who, as usual, was late. She obviously had a serious bee in her bonnet because she walked straight past the pies and prowled purposely up and down in front of the three of us before launching into a tirade. "This is all wrong.
How dare you sit there eating meat pies and continue to look away, saying you're doing enough when there is no solution in sight. We need to act, and C.A.T needs to be a part of that change that is coming.
I thought she was going to start hissing, but she just glared at us savagely before sitting down and sighing heavily. Good Lord, I could do without this tonight with everything else I had going on. As much as I love my little sister, it sounded to me as though she'd memorised something she'd seen on TV. I had a horrible feeling that she was on the verge of setting up another one of her movements, not unlike Spunk. This hadn't exactly been a resounding success, given that there still seemed to be rather a lot of homeless feral cats around the harbour. Ron and Squeak were just staring at her, their mouths full of unmasticated meat pie. This had the effect of winding Serafina up to full capacity.
We are in the middle of a mass extinction, and you're still not mature enough to do anything other than sit around eating meat pies.
I thought this was a bit rich, since Serafina was the youngest of all of us, and was normally rather partial to a disgusting pie, but I didn't dare say as much.
Climate action together, or C.A.T, must unite and march the streets of Diamond Harbour on Friday to spread our urgent message,
she announced. Then she said, as if in an afterthought,
and we need to get hold of some superglue.
Squeak was the first to speak. Why would we need superglue?
We are going to superglue our paws to the window of the Diamond Harbour Cafe,
she said, as though this should have been self-explanatory, as it was obviously germane to the cause. I couldn't help but think that she'd missed some of the salient facts surrounding whatever it was she'd been watching on the television. But it pays not to mention these things to Serafina when she's on one of these crusades. I certainly wasn't keen on having my paws superglued to anything, particularly the paw that already felt tingly and strange. This could not have come at a worse time. Couldn't we do this next Tuesday? I asked tentatively.
Weasley, this is an emergency. C.A.T needs to act now. Why would you want to leave something so urgent until next Tuesday?
Because the vet comes to Diamond Harbour on Tuesdays, and I was thinking if anything went wrong, we might need... Serafina's withering look made me feel foolish, as though thinking about my own personal distress was the very height of selfishness.
Something has already gone wrong,
she breathed ominously, and then stormed off without another word. Ron, who had remained reasonably passive throughout Serafina's rant, finished off the remains of his first pie, then said, "Did she seem to be putting on an accent to you?" "Yeah, Eastern European perhaps," I offered. "I'd have thought more Nordic," said Squeak, who had started on a mince and cheese pie that had obviously not been long out of the warmer. He instantly spat it out and frantically slurped down some rainwater that had collected in a plastic plant pot. "What have I told you, Squeak?" cautioned Ron. "Always blow on the pie." Our awkwardness over Serafina's extraordinary rant dissolved amid fits of laughter when we tried to imagine customers turning up at the local cafe to find all the neighbourhood cats stuck to the windows. "We'd probably end up on the news," said Squeak through tears of laughter. "International superstars, influencers." "Maybe we could make a difference," I said, although unsure as to what we might make a difference to. "For Christ's sake, don't you start," retorted Ron. "Let's go and find some catnip." "OK," I said, not wanting to break the good-humoured mood. I noticed that my pain and strange sensations had momentarily disappeared, although the little black cloud was still hovering. We ran down to the bridge, ready to leap over into the paddock behind On the Spot. But the three of us stopped abruptly in our tracks, our eyes open wide in amazement. There was now a huge wooden fence at the end of the little footbridge, and it was blocking our path. Ron jumped up onto the fence and said, "Do you think this is the change that Serafina said was coming?" Squeak and I followed and looked to see what he was talking about. "Great balls of fur," I gasped. "They're building a petrol station." And that was C.A.T. It seems that even the smallest communities are not immune to big ideas or the personalities that come with them. Whether those ideas are fully understood or simply repeated with great conviction is perhaps another question entirely. And while some are busy organising movements, Weasley may have some more immediate concerns of his own. If you'd like to follow along, you can subscribe wherever you're listening and join Weasley next time when an unexpected visitor arrives with rather a different take on how the world works.